Have you ever wanted to just not think? To just shut your brain off completely and go on autopilot? To not worry about things like combo routes or how to outplay your opponent? Well, the new Dinomorphia deck is the perfect deck for you. It's the new Dinosaur archetype in Battle of Chaos, which is fitting because even a Diplodocus could manage to play this deck. Now, don't close the video yet. Being simple isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, look at the current Master Duels meta. Even an infant could play Eldritch and still get to the top of the ladder, despite it being the simplest deck in the format. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that the new Dinomorphia deck doesn't do too much, but at least what it does it well. With only 2 main deck monsters, you're basically just summoning 1 monster, setting 4, and passing turn, but that can still lead to some strong stuff, being best suited as a back row deck due to having lots of in-archetype traps. You can then supplement it with other good traps like the Solemns. The Dinomorphias being Dino-masochists, they actually enjoy the loss of life points these traps cause, since it powers up their fusion monster. Oh, but they don't want to actually go below 2000 life points though, which is when they use their safe word, Stealth Bergia. Once that's on the field, you won't need to pay any life points for your traps, so feel free to invoke the wrath of old Solemn Johnson as much as you want. Their game plan is simple. Use Dinomorphia Domain to halve your life points and fuse from the deck into Kentagina. You can then halve them again to copy Domain's effect from the graveyard and summon a Stealth Bergia. You're now free to use as many costly counter traps as you want, all while doing some burn with Stealth Bergia. By the time turn 3 rolls by, you'll have a ton of ways to draw a bunch of cards, and a lot of big beat sticks to be able to easily ATK. Oh, and since the latest ban list decided it wanted to be as cursed as possible, well, I made sure to respect Konami's wishes. We'll be getting to that soon enough, don't you worry. Anyway, the simple playstyle actually allows you to run a bunch of very strong cards that would usually get in the way of some decks, but work really well with this one. Allow me to show you the deck. So this is how I think current Dinomorphias are best played. As you can see, it's a very purple deck. I'll explain my choices as I go over each card, so stick around for that. First off is 3 of each main deck Dinomorphia. You'll be getting through them very quickly when you start fusing, so you do need all 6 of them really. Terizia is usually the better of the 2 since she can search Domain, which they all really need to do. With her, 3 Domain and 3 Trap Trick, you're basically running 9 copies of Domain, so you're fairly likely to be able to get your play started. Diplace does have his use too though, since he can send your 1 copy of Sonic to the graveyard, letting you not die to the first bit of battle damage your opponent manages to pull together. Misk is, well, it's Misk, so it allows you to search Domain with Terizia in peace. Also, by turn 3 you'll have enough dinosaurs in your graveyard to summon either Dinomorphia straight from the deck, so it's a good setup for later. Ultimate Conductor Tyranno is a big boy with 3500 attack, who'll easily be able to summon himself on turn 3, which helps a lot with the ATK you'll be going for after having done a bit of burn. He's also level 10, which is important because together with the next card they can help close out games easily. That next card being Lord of the Heavenly Prison. This guy does everything, from protecting your back row to being another huge beater, to even searching whatever trap you want, or even searching Extravagance to fuel your turn 3 plays. Together with Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, these cards both have huge stats and a level 10, so they can get in a ton of damage before overlaying into a train to finish the job. Since this is a dinosaur deck, run Fossil Dig. There's no reason not to honestly. It's basically another 3 copies of Domain. Then since a control deck like this doesn't really need its extra deck too much, 3 Extravagance is basically just free draw power in this deck. You'll rarely need anything specific from it, so Extravagance is better than Prosperity in this case. Now for the traps, of which there are many. Like I've said repeatedly, Domain is their most important card. Fusing from the deck, it's easy to make a Kentagina, and then she can just copy its effect to make your other fusion, putting you straight down to 2000 life points. The next best trap is Brute, which destroys a Dinomorphia you control and a card your opponent controls. Since the monsters all replace themselves immediately, this will just let you search another trap, or send a counter trap to avoid battle damage that turn. That's Sonic's main use, but its spell and trap negation is also fairly good if you do happen to draw it. For our normal traps, run 2 Torrential Tribute. It's best used before you commit to the fusions, but if you need to do it later, it's not like you can't recover from it. If you want though, you can replace these by another copy of Solemn Judgment and Solemn Strike, which might just be the right choice. Next we have Hope for Escape. This trap might as well just say draw 3 cards, because, well, that's what it does in this deck. If you have enough interruptions already, you can Trap Trick into this and then draw a ton to ATK on turn 3. Otherwise, Trap Trick is just another emergency domain, or even a torrential tribute if you really need it. Next is 2 Solemn Judgment and Solemn Strike. You won't actually need to pay their cost in this deck, so you can easily use Strike even after having your life points twice with Judgment. I was running 3 of each of these until the ban list came out, releasing the next card to 3, which is terrible for Yu-Gi-Oh as a whole, but amazing for this deck. You see, now that Skill Drain is at 3, this deck finally has a purpose. The on-field effects of your cards are barely relevant once you've done your fusions, and yet it'll shut down a ton of other decks. Ultimate Conductor has 3500 attack, and Lord of the Heavenly Prison has 3000, both of which you can easily summon from your hand under Skill Drain. What's more is that Kentagina starts with 4000 attack, but then has an effect which reduces it. Well, after using her quick effect to copy Domain or Brute, you can then flip Skill Drain, and her attack will shoot all the way back up to 4000. Which wouldn't normally be possible unless you had 0 life points, and by then, well, you'd already be dead. This card really ties together the deck's ability to do nothing on turn 1, slow down your opponent on turn 2, and then OTK with big dumb beatsticks on turn 3. It's a bit like how Skill Drain works in trains, but with even bigger numbers. And also with some trains if you want. Skill Drain at 3 was a mistake, but it's a mistake that this deck will love. So with that out of the way, time for the extra deck. It's a deck that runs Extravagant, so it's fairly simple. You run 3 of each Dinomorphia, followed by some trains for ATKs. Then, since it's a dinosaur deck, we can also run the Evolsaurs. You can actually make Soldier with Diffusions since they're both level 6 dinosaurs, and then like I said earlier, you can make the trains with Lord of the Celestial Prison or Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. Feel free to adjust these ratios around however you see fit. The Evolsaurs are strong, but they leave you without a Dinomorphia on the field, so they're not always the best choice if you want to use their traps. Finally, for some options, you can consider running some Shade Brigandines and a Redoer, which could allow you to sometimes make some rank 4 plays on turn 1. I personally didn't find it useful enough, especially with Diplo sending a trap on summon, but I thought it could be worth the mention. So now let's have a look at some thrilling combo action, shall we? So now I'll show you how to play out some of the hands you might be getting with this deck. But first, if you've been enjoying this video, make sure to give it a like and then subscribe to the channel. In this hand, we start with a Diplos, which we summon, sending a Dinomorphia trap to the graveyard. I sent Brute, but Sonic is actually usually the right choice. However, Kentagina can then copy Brute later on. Then, after revealing Lord to protect my back row, I just set 4 and pass. During my opponent's turn, I can now activate Domain for Kentagina. Triggering Lord along the way, he summons himself and sets an Extravagance for next turn. I then halve my life points again to make the other fusion monster, letting me now be exempt from paying life points cost for traps. Hope for Escape, chain 2 by a life point free Skill Drain, draws you 3 cards, negates all of your opponent's effects, and then boosts Kentagina up to 4000 attack. You're now set up with an Ultimate Conductor Tyranno for next turn, 2 draws from Extravagance, and then another 3 from Hope for Escape, but hopefully you can just ATK before that's relevant. In this second replay, we have 2 Fossil Digs which aren't hopped for no reason, so just search Teresia and a Misk, since you can only summon 1 monster anyway. Discard Misk to make Teresia's search guaranteed, getting access to Domain. Set your other traps and then end your turn. On your opponent's turn, you can do the Domain into Kentagina into Stealth Bergia play again, but then you can chain Hope to Escape to Kentagina's effect to put you at 1000 life points, since you don't have Skill Drain to make her stronger. To make sure your opponent can't attack into Teresia and finish you off, Trap Trick into a Brute, preferably after having used Judgment in the real game. This will let you destroy Teresia and an opponent's card, while letting you send Sonic since Teresia will then summon a Diplos. This third replay doesn't have any Dinomorphia monsters in it, but with Domain in the hand, it doesn't actually really matter. All you need to do is set 4 and pass, before doing the usual play with Domain during your opponent's turn. Once you've used Judgment and Sonic, you can Trap Trick into Hope for Escape, with which we get 3 cards, and one of them is an Extravagance. Since we have 2 Ultimate Conductor Tyrannos and enough dinosaurs in the graveyard, it's pretty easy to summon both of them now, get in for a bunch of damage, and then we could even overlay into Gustav Max for an extra 2000 damage. By now you've probably figured out this fairly basic deck, but here's one last skill drain hand just because. Search Teresia with Fossil Dig, and then summon it to get a Domain. Set your Tribute, Hope for Escape and Skill Drain, and then pass your turn. Now as usual you can Domain into Kentagina into Stealth Bergia, putting at the correct life point threshold for Hope for Escape's draw 3. However, this time it draws a Lord of the Heavenly Prison, and like when Personal Spoofing searches a Multi-Faker, it can summon itself from the activation of the card that added it to your hand. With a huge beat stick on board, you can now activate Skill Drain to drain all skill from the game. At this point you've just gotten as many big numbers on the board as possible, so just summon all of your big dinosaurs and hopefully swing for game, with another Lord as a backup in case anything goes wrong. So what did you think? Will you try this deck, or is it a bit too basic for you? Tell me in the comments below, and while you're down there, don't forget to like and subscribe. Special thanks to the first Tier 2 patron, Jason Murat. If you want to check out the patron, the link's in the description. Thanks for watching!